Hello and welcome to part 5 of the High Performance Imports V8 commentary. This is my second trip to Nikko Circuit. This time I hired a rental car and drove out there myself. It's a little bit tricky to find if you haven't been there before, so luckily I had. This was a typical club drift day. They were having a bit of a competition, but I think it was basically within the club itself. Once again though, people were very friendly and a few people allowed me to put the camera in their cars.
Nikko Circuit, 2 hours north of Tokyo, is one of the most popular drift tracks in Japan. There are several drift meetings every week, with large events drawing over 100 cars. Even at a club level event, there are some very talented drifters and well-prepared cars. Often D1 drivers attend just to practice and maybe add another trophy to their collection. At the other end of the scale, some cars are just junk, and treated that way too.
According to that, the guy driving the car is nicknamed Gorilla. It's a funny effect when you come in from drifting, the tyres are really hot. So if you drive through a little bit of water, they'll sit there steaming on a cold day.
Tyres are always the biggest casualty at these meetings. Every car will need at least 3 sets of rear tyres for a single day of drift. It becomes expensive when you're running 18-inch wheels. But no one said motorsport was cheap. This JZX110 was one of the more expensive cars here, with a big IHI turbo. An older JZX81 like this seems like a wiser choice. Even better, an old Thrasher 180SX like this. Unfortunately, the owner seems to be colourblind.
It's hard to remember just how cheap these cars were back then. You look at any sort of decent S13 in Japan now, and it's well over $20,000. Whereas back then, you'd pick up cars like this for $4 or $5 grand, and you could get a lot of the tuning parts second hand off Yahoo auctions or from Up Garage or whatever. So it really was a lot easier then to get into drifting than it is now, I think.
Our pick for presentation was this R32 sedan with VIP style rims and a paint colour borrowed from a Daihatsu Naked.
Actually, I like this car so much that I built something very similar back in Australia. I bought a R32 4-door and painted it that same G34 green. I did have a bit different body kit and different wheels, and I had GTR seats in it and a very different engine setup. Actually had an RB24, which was the original RB20, but with a Tomei stroke and bore kit. I'm happy to say the car is actually still around, and the guy who owns it now still drifts it.
The RB20 has been swapped for an RB25 from an R33 with a HKS 2540 turbo. The transmission has also been swapped from auto to an R33 5-speed.
It really is a nice colour.
Let's see if he can keep the panels straight.
The 2540 is a fairly small turbo to run on RB25, but as you can tell in this video, the response is awesome. So unless you're looking for drag racing peak power, it's probably a pretty good way to go.
Sometimes you just can't get enough opposite lock. His friend's 180SX is a more typical drift machine, with a Truss T517Z turbo bolted onto the original SR20 engine. The sparkly paint is a common drift look too. The catch is that the owner wasn't driving, so everyone was watching closely.
Personally, I really hate drifting with an off-center steering wheel like that. They were kind of a hangover from the 90s, but gradually the deep cone type, perfectly round steering wheel like a Nardi tended to become more popular in drifting.
Takes is something like this to spoil your concentration. Luckily, the car wasn't damaged. Even the rims look okay.
Good thing in events like this, especially when they're not actually competing, is that people are really expecting the car in front of them to spin out, so they're ready to react when you do.
This JZX81 Mark II was in D1 until recently. Now the driver is trying to qualify for next season. The Toyota 1JZ has been replaced by a Nissan RB26 with a big single turbo pushing it to over 500 horsepower, even at mile boost levels.
It's the sort of thing that drives Toyota fans and probably Nissan fans crazy too. It's an awful lot of work too, so I don't know why people bother, but I guess it's different.
Even the brakes have been swapped for Nissan parts. Inside, a pair of Bosch pumps make a racket, but not as much as the turbo wastegate when it opens. Maybe he'll be back in D1 next year, but this guy won't.
This was a fun part. At the end of the day, the club had their own little competitions so that anyone there on the day could get involved. Unfortunately, I had to do the video.
The weirdest part of the day was a running race for the entrance. Prizes were lined up on the finish line, and all the guys lined up on another part of the track, with the girls given a bit of a head start. And yes, they were playing that music on the PA.
Good jump starts there.
The girls really needed that head start, as it turned out. So what was the prize? A litre of engine oil. Hardly worth the effort, really.
It's always a great thing about club drift meetings like this. People don't take everything too seriously. Anyway, that's it for part 5. Yes, part 5 of High Performance Imports V8. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll be back soon with part 6.